Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining back in for another math lesson. You guys just did the test on chapter 12. We're going to move on to chapter 13. It's all about making bar graphs and reading scales and getting a lot of data and information from some math kind of pictures, bar graphs and graphs. We're going to start out on page 84 in your student book if you have it, or if you can access it online, you can do like half your screen of the book and then half your screen of me. If you don't have it, I'm going to turn my screen and show you my book, at least on the examples, so we can read through it together in order to increase your success on your own. So here we go. Page 84. Let's see, let's start out at the top here in this yellow box where we've got some vocabulary. We've got vertical, horizontal, axis, and scale. All right, those words are gonna come up in the lesson and I'll make sure to point them out. Here's our objective. Here's what our goal with this lesson today is to make bar graphs with scales. We're gonna use data in picture graphs and a tally chart. Tallies are the ones with all those tick marks. Okay, here's an example. It says learn making graphs using data from picture graphs. Cool, they're going to show us how to do some of that objective. Here's the example. 4 friends went for a nature walk. The picture graph shows the number of butterflies that each friend saw on the walk. Here's a hint. A picture graph is useful for comparing data. Oh, sure, because you can see all of the pictures. One thing that's important is to always check the key. The key tells you what each picture stands for. Now, in this one butterfly represents one butterfly. So one picture represents one butterfly, I should say. That's not always the case. So it is very important to check the key or the scale. Sometimes it's called as well. Here are the people. Here are the friends, Sam, Jamal, Karen, and Roger. So each butterfly stands for 1. So Sam had 4, Jamal found 10, Karen found 8, and Roger found 6. Okay, so using that information, you guys can flip to page 85. 85 and 86. Here are the butterflies seen, same data, but just in a bar graph. Melissa uses a square to stand for 2 butterflies in this graph. The graph shows that Jamal saw the most butterflies among the students. So in this one, if a square represents 2, so for Sam it would be 2, 4, and if you're not sure, you can always go back to that page right before and you saw that, yep, sure enough, Sam did have 4. Okay. So Jamal should have 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yep. Okay. Let's look at this example. This one says use vertical and horizontal bar graphs to represent data. Melissa uses the data in the picture graph to make a vertical bar graph. A scale shows the value of the bars, and in this graph, the vertical axis or grid line is marked 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. So here it is, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. These markings represent the scale. So it goes up, counting by 2s with the numbers, and then the little tick mark in between is the other number. So like a picture graph, a bar graph is also useful for comparing data. Okay, let's look over at this one. Page 86 for you guys. Then Linda redraws Melissa's vertical graph as a horizontal graph. I remember horizontal, it comes from the word horizon, and the horizon is where the sun comes up and goes down. That's how I remember that horizontal is this way. It's also the way we sleep or lay down. Okay, number of butterflies, there's the friends. It says a bar graph uses vertical or horizontal bars to show data. The length of each bar represents a value. This can be read from the scale marked on the axis of the graph down here. Linda's graph uses a scale of 2. It starts with 0 and skips in 2s. The greatest number on the scale is 12 because it needs to include all the data. All the way over there. Okay. We're going to go to some guided learning, which is on page 87 for you guys. My book has some answers, so I'm not going to show them right away, but it says the question or the statement at the top says the bar graph shows the data in a tally chart. Let me actually just cover up my bottom so that I can show you in case you don't know what a tally chart is. Here we go. I used tallies a lot, especially when we were voting for something. But here's another example of a tally chart. This is our model car. So we've got Ken, Tasha, Brian, and Pat. Here's the tallies, and here's the number. So that's 6. Remember, in tallies, you tie your groups together in groups of 5. It makes it really easy to count. 5, 10, 11, 12. Okay, tallies is a really great way to monitor your information in a really fast way. Okay, guided learning starts on page 87 that we're on. And the statement says, find the missing data. So they gave you Brian and Tasha, and they gave you a little bit of a scale. Go ahead and pause me. Look back at the names and notice the skip counting pattern on the axis for the scale. Go ahead and pause me and see what you can put in those little green boxes, because I'm going to show an answer in just a second. But I want you to have a chance to put in that information yourself before I show you. Okay, now you can check yourself and see your scale. You should have noticed that it was counting by 2s, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. If you didn't get that 8 and that 12, that's okay. Just notice them now. And then you can see the 2 friends from above. They had given us Tasha and Brian, the middle 2. So we just needed to fill in Ken and Pat. And then down here, name the student. The scale on the bar graph has skips of 2. Okay. Flip your page to 88. Actually, skip that, 90. We're going to go to the Let's Practice. So the Let's Practice is where you're going to get to practice on your own a little bit, drawing a graph, but let's go through, where did my Post-it go? I'll cover up my answers, but I'll make sure that I can read everything else to you just to make it really clear since I'm not with you. So it's the Let's Practice, it's page 90. All right, so it says, Justin and his friends are folding paper objects. The number of each type of paper object made is shown below. Okay, they made 18 paper airplanes, 15 paper balls, 21 paper boats, 12 paper cranes, and 6 paper frogs. So use a copy of the bar graph. Well, you can't use a copy because we don't have that ability to do that right now. You would have to put it on a separate piece of paper for today. It says, help Justin show the number of paper objects on the graph. So the graph down here that I've covered up, this is the information that you're going to include, and you're going to create a bar graph on a separate sheet of paper. I would just use your math notes. It already has the lines, and so that'll help out a little bit. If you have graph paper, great, but you don't have to have graph paper. You can just use your math notes. Pause me, and then I'll show you what your graph hopefully looks like. Okay, here you go. Paper objects made. That would have been a really great title to have at the top. Doesn't have to be exactly that, but something about what they were doing, what this graph is about. Number of objects, well, they had started out the scale of 0, 3, so you should have seen that. hopefully, and then continued on. 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. The number of objects, here's your objects, airplanes, balls, boats, cranes, and frogs. They gave you those. Hopefully you wrote in kinds of objects or something that makes sense there. And then they had done the airplanes graph for you, and you had to fill in 2 for the, sorry, where are the balls? Paper balls, oh, 15. They'd only started. You needed to go all the way up to 15. For boats, let's see, 21, way up there. Cranes was 12, and frogs was 6. And then the last question, what number does the scale skip by? There we go, we noticed it's skip counting by 3s. Okay, so now that was page 90. That is the end of the lesson, so you are going to be doing some workbook pages that are completely related to the short lesson that we just went through. In your math workbook, it is going to start on page 61. It's going to sound like a lot, but it's just because there's so many huge pictures. You're going to do from 61 to 68, and I'll show the answers. So now would be a really good time to pause me. Way to go, work hard, just do your best. That's all you can do. If you get stuck, ask somebody or write down a question and you can email me that question later. Have fun with bar graphs and line plots. It's a really fun way of doing math because it's these really cool pictures. So you got this. Now is a good place to stop because I'm going to show some answers. Let's see. We'll do, this is page 61 and 62. 60, oh, I'm sorry, this is 61. This is 63, that's confusing. 62's down here. 64. 65. 66, 67, 68. Okay. Check back next time for another math lesson.